is, and something I've heard in lots of places that I've spoken lately, people feel like they don't have the information about what's going on. We don't have daily newspapers in the way that we used to, and we don't have a lot of independent journalism. We're getting information just from one source or another that comes to us prepackaged and with its spin on it already. What can we do to help get the word out about what's actually happening? Do any of you have suggestions for the ways that our obviously very involved citizens who are sitting here at 7:30 on a Monday night can make sure the word is getting out to others who care about these issues? Anyone have a thought?
I think the first step is showing up tonight and talking to your neighbors and getting them to understand the issues that we have that the state is facing. The second thing is I think we need to support objective media. I'll just say it, Senator Warren and I were pitching for WMU earlier tonight, so I think you have to really seek out your objective news sources, and you have to support them, I think, especially in this time when you can go to the internet and you can find some crazy angle on something. And I think it's really hard to know now what is objective and what isn't, what is a no-spin zone or anything else. So other panelists like to add in?
Sure, I think I would probably echo the two things. The objective media, I think, is key. Personal conversations. We've been hosting a series of what I call key communicator meetings, and just really trying to get to people who are in the know or are sought out within our community who can share our story with other people. And by all means, you can always call and ask and as it pertains to the school districts, but as we can write letters to our editors and hope that they publish some of this information, and we can also just have these personal conversations. If you belong in other social groups, those are great ways to get the word out. Because once you make a personal connection to what's going on, I think people are really concerned and you really resonate about how dire some of these situations are.
Well, if I can put a push in for labor, I just think as labor we need to work together. There's one way we could bring different groups together, work together, share each other's stories and concerns. And I think, in general, just working collectively, getting together with people you don't usually get together with. Obviously, as a professor, we like people to be informed. We want people to be informed and read all the sources that they can. And we like disseminate any information. But it's got to come from the citizens. We have to let people know what is going on. And I think all of us together have a responsibility to do that. But it has to be together. It can't just be one person standing up and yelling. We have to work together. And if we do that, eventually, the things that Senator Warren was talking about, which people may say, oh, that doesn't have a chance, it's never going to happen. You know what? Things change. Things change over time. And the other thing I'll say, this is an election in 2012. And I think you now know how important these state legislative races are. So I think we need to get involved in that election coming up. It's going to be here before you know it.
And also, I think, to speak to my age demographic, speak to the youth in your lives. Let them know how these education cuts are going to really impact their lives, their future, the future of the state. I think that's imperative as well.
I have a couple of other folks who have joined us as the co-chairs of the Ann Arbor City Democratic Party. Ann Bannister and Mike Henry are out in the balcony, so I just wanted to say thank you to them for coming out tonight. Somebody asked the question, please elaborate on the $1.9 billion for prisons versus $1.2 billion for higher ed. Can this be true? It sounds outrageous. Absolutely true. Michigan has the dubious distinction of being one of just 4 states in the nation that spend more on corrections than we do on higher ed. Just 4 states in the nation. And The concern about that is that all of our corrections funding comes out of our general fund, our most flexible dollars that can go to any program that we think is important, doesn't come in a silo from Washington that has to go specifically to one program or another. Corrections now eats up almost a full quarter, almost 25% of our entire general fund budget goes to corrections. And what we know about that is Michigan spends way more on corrections than most of our other Great Lakes states neighbors do. We put people in prison for longer sentences for the same crimes, and Michigan has interpreted truth in sentencing to mean you are not eligible for parole until you have hit 100% of your minimum sentence, where under the federal law and under a lot of other state law at 85%, if you've done your coursework that you're supposed to do, if it was anger management or substance abuse counseling or what you needed to do and you've been a model prisoner, you could be considered for parole at 85% of your sentence. And so what we find in Michigan is that because of some challenges in the parole system, most of our prisoners are serving at least 120%, not even just 100, but 120% of their minimum required sentence. And so that cost for us is, depending on what facility they're in Michigan, between $35,000 and $50,000 per year per prisoner. So there's a lot of recommendations that have come to us as the legislature to say, we need to do away with some of our mandatory minimum sentences that we, in the 90s when we got tough on crime, like lots of other folks, we locked up first-time offenders, even first-time drug offenders that were pretty small offenders, even if they were nonviolent, we locked them away for life in prison or certain mandatory minimum lengths of sentences. We also really have to start, I guess, deciding who we're really afraid of, because public safety has to be paramount, has to be the number one thing that we look at when we talk about corrections funding. But for the folks that we're just mad at, that weren't violent offenders, that really needed treatment more than they needed prison, we have a lot of alternatives now in community corrections and in tether technology. We've gotten so advanced in tether technology that we could be getting folks out of our correction system, have them back in the community, hopefully working, paying restitution if that's what they've been ordered to do, taking care of their family and child support obligations if they have them, and really becoming productive in society instead of us spending $50,000 a year to keep them in prison. So we have a lot of reform, and there are a lot of very reputable organizations that have said there's at least $400 or $500 million in corrections reform that would really be pretty easy reform for us to do in Michigan. And again, that's the kind of Michigan I want to see. I want to see a Michigan where we're smart on corrections policy, not just tough on crime, but smart on crime, and that we're protecting public safety, but that we're doing it in such a way that we're not spending more on corrections than we are on higher education.